to Bloody Good Horror, covering the best and worst of the horror genre since Halloween 2007. Listener discretion is advised.
Hello everybody and welcome to another exciting episode of Bloody Good Horror. My name's Eric and I'll be your host for this evening, where we will be discussing the Prodigy. Joe, the Prodigy, not the Prodigy.
I'm the fire starter.
Exactly.
Twisted fire starter.
I'll be your host for this evening. Joining me tonight, first up, he's from Chicago, he drinks beer, he definitely knows at least one Prodigy song. Please welcome Joe to the show.
Oh, I celebrated their entire catalog in that 4 to 5 month period in the late 90s where techno was popular.
I mean, who doesn't, you know? Next up on the show, coming to us from Indiana, please welcome Casey.
Hello.
And
I was more of a KMFDM man myself.
I don't know what that means. I don't know what it is. I'll have to look it up. And last up tonight, joining us, he doesn't know what any of us are talking about. That's because he is young. You might even call him Young Andrew. Please welcome Andrew to the show.
Hello, yes. Sorry, I'm more into Hungarian folk music.
Who isn't? You know?
Yeah,
Hey,
legendary.
quick, important announcement. Young Andrew is not as young as he was yesterday, as of today.
That's true. Happy birthday to Young Andrew.
Thank you. I don't know what it says about my social life that I was able to drop everything and come to a podcast recording, but hey, you know, I'm here.
Yeah.
I mean, to
I don't know why
me,
you wanted to spend your birthday with us.
I think it says you have your priorities straight, if I'm being honest.
Exactly.
Nothing sad about that.
Also, not for nothing, but I haven't done anything my birthday in like a decade, so.
Yeah. How old are you, Andrew? How old are you now?
Now I'm 27.
Oh, all right.
Oh, I
well,
thought
yeah,
you were-
you're old
oh,
enough
okay.
that you shouldn't be celebrating birthdays anymore. So I think this is.
You're not a child, Andrew.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Celebrate
I'm
birthdays.
only 2 youngs instead of the 3 young.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, we're here tonight to discuss another youngin in the Prodigy. Also, if you watch Orange Is the New Black like I do, how weird it is to see Taylor Schilling in makeup. You can, like, barely recognize her without all the like shit on her face that she has usually in Orange Is the New Black.
Wait, does she wear makeup in Orange Is the New Black?
Well, no,
or
because she's in prison. And that's the only thing I
Yeah.
ever see her in. So when I see her like a normal-looking person in a movie, it's very strange.
Yeah, I mean, I think she has to wear like Kool-Aid or something, right, for blush.
I assume there's some sort of barter system in the clink.
Tell me everything you know about women's prison right now, Joe.
Well, most of it I learned from movies that we probably can't discuss on this show. So,
Yep.
So anyway, Cinemax in the 90s. ...
Exactly.
Joe, speaking
a
of...
little tame for my taste, there, if you know what I mean.
No, Joe's like, no, I actually went to real women's prisons. Yeah, I like to get it straight from the tap. Speaking of inappropriate feelings, Joe, great news for you today. Your world was rocked today.
I mean, great news for one, Miss Joey King, that finally my support and I want to say like pushing her career has finally paid off because she received her first Emmy nomination for some show that I do not remember the name of, but it's on Hulu.
Can you believe it's only her first?
The Act is the name of the movie. So it's like a made-for-TV movie that was on Hulu or whatever they call those.
I'm gonna be honest.
Hulu.
I don't even remember what movie Joey King was in. Was it Wish Upon?
She was in Wish Upon,
Yeah.
and then she was in something else that
Was
we
she
watched
in
too.
Slender Man
The
too?
Dybbuk box.
Yeah,
Knowing about the Dybbuk box.
That's what I'm thinking of. Dybbuk Box. I don't know what Wish Upon is.
she gets down with the multiverse, if you remember that.
I just think of Joey King, and I think of that scene at the end of that movie where her dad's reaching way too dangerously off the top of a ladder, and that's all I remember. That and I'm a slut for wontons. Those are the two things I remember from that movie.
Was it Ryan DeFilippi or Philippi or whatever his name is, who was her father?
Yes,
Yes.
like weird bloated Ryan Phillippe was her dad. That's right, I remember that.
Yeah. Anyway, great actress. She has now been nominated for an Emmy. There's an adorable video up there of her getting the news and sobbing uncontrollably. And I I'm waiting for the call that she'll be taking me because, as we're all well aware, I have been at the forefront of
The Joey King
King's
movement.
support.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
for-
you must be pretty busy now as the president of her fan club, right? You must be
I mean, I'm ignoring a lot of emails.
so much clerical work,
TMZ and LBJ and all those other sites, they're clamoring for my thoughts. So, it's a big time for me, and secondary probably one Miss Joey King as
I
well.
mean, all joking aside, Joe, like, there's probably not a lot of people who know a lot about her, so you could totally just, like, bill yourself as a Joey King expert and just, like, Entertainment Tonight. They're probably doing the story tonight. Who is Joey King? Let's find out. And then the first person are like, this is Joe
Let's
from
talk
Chicago.
to this 40-year-old man.
It may not be far-fetched to say that I am the biggest Joey King
And then the lower
fan.
third would say, like, Joe Charno's quote unquote Joey King expert.
Joey aficionado. So the movie, I don't know if I said it, The Act, and I watched the trailer, and it actually looks pretty good. Patricia Arquette plays her mother, and apparently it's this whole, she convinces her that she's sick and gets sympathy for it or something. I don't know. It looks good.
You know what I'd also like?
I actually watched parts of that, and she was very good in it, but it's actually like a mini-series thing, and it's based off a true story.
Yeah.
Joe, what I think you should do is...
Yeah, should be good. Yeah.
What I think you should do is you should start going around and only referring to her movies as King films, just totally ignoring that there might be another connotation there when you say that, and just walk up to strangers and be like, hey, did you see the latest King movie? And they'll be like, what, did It sequel come out? And you're like, no,
King.
it's Divic Box. Hello?
That's straight up King joint. Did you see that new one?
Oh, it's hot fire. I really like this.
Hashtag Year of the King.
I really like this. Delightful, Joe. Delightful. Will Joey King be attending the Bloody Good Horror meetup this fall? That's my question.
I mean, she currently is not a Patreon subscriber, so I don't think she'll be at the Friday gathering. But I mean, Saturday, who knows?
All bets
we
are
can
off.
see.
You'd think she could afford $1 a month.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, that's true. So it's a terrific segue. So we're about a month and a half out, so it's time that we really start pimping this thing.
I can't believe it's that close.
The weekend of September 20th, we are gathering in the fine city of Chicago. For you Patreon subscribers, you got an email last week, and there's also a post on Patreon with details of our Friday night get-together, which is happening at 7 o'clock in the fine city of Chicago. If you get info and you end up coming by and you're not a Patreon subscriber, you're welcome to pay for booze, but you're not touching our goddamn shit. But the big get together is Saturday night, and that is actually at 4 p.m. So it's more late afternoon. That is at Crown Liquors in Chicago. We're doing our Spooktoberfest trivia. Master Shelton will be on hand doing all of his trivia, earthly needs and desires and wants.
Yeah, this is a very important point, because if you weren't a listener 2 years ago when we did our 10-year and heard us gushing afterward about Shelton's horror trivia is legit maybe the most fun I've ever had as a horror fan. I think, like, we were all excited about the screening, but by the time we got the screening, we were like way too hammered to even stay awake, which is why we're not doing this time. But no, like,
because we had all the fun at the
legit.
Shelton's trivia.
If you're within driving distance of this thing, or you can afford a plane ride and you're supporting us, or either whatever, you want to come out and meet everybody, you can meet the larger BGH family, the Danger Girls, like everybody who's ever like rotates in on the show, Sophisticult Cinema, like all in one place, really chill. We can all just gather in a place and hang out for hours and talk and get to know each other. And I think we had a lot of people tell us last time they really regretted missing the 10-year. So here's your chance to, make it happen.
Yeah, this one's going to be a little less formal. So like I said, it's at Crown Liquors, which is in Chicago. Address and everything, we'll put up a post on the site. If you're on Facebook, you got the info there. We're not doing any sort of cover or charge this time around. Pretty much, if you want to play the trivia, there'll be a small fee. But if you don't, like, you're welcome to come just hang out with us. I am told by our good friend and listener Elisa, who has corrected me on how I mispronounce her name, that we'll have the folks at 21st Amendment on hand doing a tasting. So it's going to be a really good time. I'm really excited about it, and hopefully it doesn't flounder because I pretty much put this whole thing together. But
Joe.
yes, September 21st in beautiful Chicago. Hopefully you guys can be there.
Joe, can I tell you,
Yeah.
I have more faith in you to pull something off like this than anyone else, Joe.
Oof,
This
that's
is you've been practicing in your day job for this kind of thing your whole life, right? Like
it really is. It's
putting-
like wrangling cats.
putting
which-
it together, making
Yeah.
it happen. You know what I mean? You're
yeah.
cashing checks and
So-
snapping necks.
Plus, history already proves you're the one that stays sober to make sure shit happens.
in the weirdest possible plot twist of history, yes, Joe ends up being the responsible one.
All of a sudden goes into dad mode. Yeah.
Listen,
Well,
I
I
think
mean-
we should all just resolve this time to let Schnars do what Schnars is gonna do. Like,
Yeah, I don't care if he walks into traffic, like that's his deal. Like it's just
Oh,
because
great.
this time when we leave the bar, like we don't have to go put on a screening. So screw it. Like let him do what he's gonna do. He gets home.
Exactly.
He gets home. He's a big boy. He can handle himself. No, he can't. But that's fine.
AKA, it's the new class's responsibility
Yeah.
to make sure Schneider
Right,
doesn't
like
end
this
up
time,
dead.
I am not stopping him. Actually, let me say this: the only reason why I stopped him from going out the new class last time was not that I really cared that he went out, and honestly, like the new class, if they want to get into that pile of shit, they're welcome to. Because this is like again, like Joe, the dad brain in me. I'm flashing forward 3 hours to it being like 2 a.m. and we're all asleep, and they just dump Schnars on the doorstep, and he starts banging. Because remember, it was really hard to get into the
Oh
house.
yeah.
I'm
need
like,
a code to get in.
This MFer is not going to wake me up at 2 a.m. because he can't figure out how to get in the damn house.
Either
Yeah.
that or Andrew shows up at 2 a.m. and says, we can't find him.
Or like,
I mean, similarly, selfishly, because we needed John Saturday pretty much for payments and credit card information.
we need
or
his
else
money,
we-
basically, yeah.
Yeah, we wouldn't have been able to pull off the 10-year thing. This time around, I mean, I pretty much got all the contacts. I've got a credit card, so if he,
Ooh.
if he drops dead Friday night, like we'll be sad, but the show must go on.
At least, hey, at least we'll have plenty of Costco muffins, so we'll be good.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
All right, guys. So, Joe,
Yeah.
is there like a landing? I'm actually asking this question without knowing the answer. Is there a landing page for all this information?
There is not. We will have one up this week, though, with info. If
Great.
you aren't on Facebook or Twitter and haven't caught up on the info, we'll have that up this week, so you can
And
start taking a look.
if you're in Slack, there's a whole channel just devoted to it. So if you have any travel questions, you want to coordinate. A lot of people, like patrons, are coordinating. Like some of them are staying together. They're going to meet up or whatever. So they'll be super helpful because they've already been
Yeah.
digging into it. So and if you're a patron, you don't have your Slack, just shoot us an email, info@PolitiGoodHorror, and we'll get you set up.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, guys. That sounds great.
Yep. Yeah.
Joe,
Yes,
I'm very excited.
I'm excited.
Yes.
I can't
Also,
wait.
do you know what I drank this weekend?
No, I do not. Tell me.
I had a White Claw.
Oh, they've started bringing those into my office for like
It's
larger
very-
meetings.
it's-
I've been like pocketing them, so I've actually got a bunch upstairs.
It's very refreshing, and for whatever reason, tends to hurt my stomach less than other things I drink lately. So,
Nice.
I think I'm on the claw now, Joe.
Yeah, I've been doing similar, mixing LaCroix or like LaCroix knockoffs with gin.
Okay, all right. I respect the game. Very nice.
Yeah.
All right, Joe. Please bring us this week's beer pick.
Beer guts.
Oh, the Prodigy. Where to begin? I mean, you're kind of, and we'll get into it, obviously, but your typical run-of-the-mill spooky kid doing spooky things, and the parents are trying to figure it out. And in honor of those parents trying to figure it out, I picked a beer from a brewery all the way down in Texas, which is rare for me, but Brinham, I'm probably saying this wrong, but Brinham, Texas. The name of the brewery is Brazos Valley Brewing, and this is a beer they named after a fine song. It's called Mama Tried, which, the mama in this movie, she tried. She goddamn tried. Mama Tried is an IPA, fairly straightforward for the style. A lot of hops, obviously, in the nose and the taste.
Joe,
A
that's
little more-
actually
yeah.
that's really amazing. Like on
Thanks.
point.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean,
incredible.
sometimes I do some digging. a little more malt than you usually get in most IPAs, but really well balanced. Like I said, this beer is down in Texas, so you get those hot months, and but this one's very sort of crisp and smooth, and has a really great flavor to it. Not super overpowering with the hops, but still enough to give you that IPA flavor. I'm a big fan of it. I have to go down to Austin for work every once in a while, and I always try and track this one down or pick it up when I'm at the bar. Comes in at about 6.6% alcohol, so a little higher than your usual. But like down in Texas, you're sweating constantly, so you can have like 12, 13 of these and still be perfectly fine to drive your little demon kid to soccer practice or whatever you do. Name of the website. Oh, not on their website. Whoops. I'm assuming it's just brazosvalley.com. Oh yeah, brazosvalleybrewery.com is their website, and I haven't had much of their other stuff, but this one's really good, so I assume the rest is. So give it a try if you can track it down, kids.
All right. Thank you for that, Joe.
Thank you.
It is time, fellas. Let's take a break so that we can dig in to the Prodigy.
This is it, Senator. They're big breaking TV. From the prime time, bitch. Main feature.
And we're back. Young Andrew.
Hello. Yes.
Do you know how I know you're fancy?
How? How do you know I'm fancy?
You have blue glasses.
Blue glasses. Thank you. Thank you. That
Only
somehow makes me qualified for this.
Only fancy smart people have blue glasses. It's just a fact.
It's true.
Exactly.
I'll take it. I'll take it.
Andrew,
It's a lie.
Schnars is out tonight, and at some point I decided let's just let anybody do the word of the day, because if Schnars isn't going to be here, then screw it.
I feel like you really built Andrew up and then just kind of knocked him down. Like, well,
I didn't
let
mean
him
it
guess
that way, but now that I'm said it out loud, I'm hearing it in my head. Anyway, we're very thrilled tonight to have you do the word of the day, Andrew. So please bring us the word.
So yes, clearly you're excited, but I did do some research on this because I wanted to get a good word. Like there were some like hack words that like maybe John would have done, but like I wanted to go in and do some like digging to find this out. So briefly, this movie does involve some Hungarian ghosts, and they mention that it's from a specific region like of Romania and Hungary, like as they're like right on the border between the two countries. He says it in one dialogue. And then he gives like a population count. So that just made it really difficult because clearly the person who actually wrote this movie did not research this at all. And I did way more research than he did. But the only location that kind of fits within this is the Transylvanian Plain, otherwise known as the Mulzeg. And it's not only a section of Romania really close to the Hungarian border, but it is also an improvisational dance. And that just led me down a huge Hungarian trail.
If you recreate this dance for me right now, you are a legend, sir.
It's improvisational, so I can do like whatever. It just involves like I watch it. It's like it's a couple dance, so like you got to have another person with you. But it's a lot of knee slaps, ankle slaps, doing a little shimmying. Like it's pretty great.
Is this like Cousin Balky, a reference you definitely don't get, but Joe does?
Oh yeah.
Didn't his dance used to involve like knee slaps and stuff?
Yeah, now we do the dance of joy.
Yes.
Yes.
Die, 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 die.
Maybe he was doing the Mezzalzag.
Maybe. I think he was
also
actually.
filmed here in Chicago,
Oh.
a place where Andrew will be in a couple months, and I think you should do this dance live for everybody.
All right, I'm down. Give me a few drinks of the Hungarian variety, and I'm possessed.
Love it. What do Hungarians drink? Like
Yeah, it's
fermented goat's milk or something?
Oh, it's like pretty heavy. Like a lot of
Yeah.
Hungarian beers are like pretty heavy in the
If you lived
alcohol
in
content, so.
Eastern Europe, wouldn't you drink pretty heavily too?
Yeah, it's a dream. I
Just
want to
saying.
live in Eastern Europe so bad.
Wait a second, really?
Yeah, man, that's my dream vacation. I'm going out to Budapest and like doing all the like I want to do all the castle tours of like where they
Well,
have the actual like Dracula castle and
Yeah,
stuff like that.
castles are cool. I'm down with that.
Yeah.
I gotcha.
And like there's just like cows like walking around, hanging around. Everyone looks happy and they're nice, at least according to their very
Until
probably
they-
structured YouTube videos.
Yeah,
so.
until they
Yeah.
try to
That
steal
is
your
true. We do not have cows here in America.
try to steal your kidney. Anyway, guys, the Prodigy. This is a movie. It's definitely a movie. Taylor Schilling. You seen that Orange is the New Black there, Joe? You seen that show?
We watched, I want to say, the first 2 seasons,
Yeah.
maybe part of 3, and lost interest.
Three was pretty whack, but it gets better. So
Yeah.
she plays Piper on that show. She's the lead. Well, the first few seasons she's the lead. She's kind of been more of a background character the last few ones.
Yeah.
But she is. The movie starts out and we see 2 scenes concurrently. We see a baby about to be born, and we see a serial killer, or we were to assume so. There's a girl in the very beginning. She escapes his house. She calls cops. And then the 2 scenes are kind of intercut, almost like Godfather style, although that's giving this movie way too much credit. But like between the baby being born, the guy dying, and we're not entirely sure what to make about it, but you think like, well, maybe this is some weird reincarnation thing, because like literally as the guy dies, the baby's like, wah, and so something's going on, right? And that's a setup for the movie. And then as the first act goes on, we sort of slowly age up with the kid. And we find out he's a genius. Then we find out, like, well, he's so smart. He's, like, maybe a little troubled. And this part kind of culminates with a violent scene where he attacks a kid with a wrench that was pretty bananas.
As you do. Yeah.
At this point, now we're kind of, like, in the present now. We've stopped sort of flashing forward. The kid is, I don't know, what do you guys, did they say? Is he, like, 10 or 9 or something?
8. The whole thing sort of culminates around him turning 8.
Right. So, and that's when the wrench attack happens. He's getting very troubling. They start going to doctors trying to figure out what's going on. I would like to point out, for the record, a medical doctor suggests to her that maybe her son has been reincarnated and that this reincarnated spirit is malevolent. This happens maybe earlier on in the film than you might expect. The father is way against even going down this road. The father also has his own checkered past. His dad used to beat him, and so there's this kind of very small section where she worries that the father might be abusing the kid, and that's why he's acting out. That doesn't really pan out to be anything. But just to kind of mention, the father is also in the picture in the movie, occasionally remembers that he's there. And yeah, so like as the movie goes on, Taylor Schilling's like, yep, my kid is definitely reincarnated from a killer, and I need to save him before the killer soul like totally takes over, because there is a suggestion that the kid is still kind of in there, right? And like there's moments where he's floating back and forth. It's, you know, it's up for debate, but it's like there's at least, they want you to at least feel a little bit of sympathy for the kid. And so they play with that notion a little bit. So that's the setup. And then it's basically her trying to deal with the son and the kind of messed up roads that leads her down, and there's a bunch of murdering and stuff and a dead dog. Spoiler alert. So yeah, the Prodigy, Joe.
Yeah.
How'd you feel about this?
I mean, I think I'm probably more thumbs up on this than the rest of you guys, not to spoil anything. I don't disagree that this movie has problems, but I think for me, it separates itself from a lot of the, you know, spooky bad kid doing bad stuff, in the fact that it gets like really violent. Like you kind of mentioned, the attacking another kid with like a wrench, and even like towards the last act, things get fairly bloody. So I kind of liked it for that aspect. I also thought the whole like killer trapped inside a kid type thing was a little outside of what we normally get, so I appreciate it for that. I mean, by no means is this a great movie. I don't see it making my top 10 list or anything, but you know, for what it was, I thought it was enjoyable enough.
Andrew.
Yeah, it's interesting that the last movie I was brought on to talk about was Child's Play, because this is basically Child's Play, but without the doll. Like it's like a little kid that it's happening in, which is just, I guess my forte now is just going to be small, murderous, child-sized things, which, you know, I'm down for it. I'm riding this wave. This was kind of iffy. Like, I really like the final act, but if it didn't go as dark and as intense and as just kind of wild as it did near the end, I probably would have just really kind of just like threw this out, because there's just not a lot there. Like I find some of the internal stuff interesting, and I think the idea of it being a duel between like there's like like the two souls fighting out in the one child body is like an interesting concept because you need to have some way to differentiate the multitudes of these movies. But other
Well,
than that,
you
I
also,
kinda
yeah, I
wasn't a fan.
mean, you either have to decide if you're a movie that you just want the kid to be scary and evil, or if you want it to be a sad, like, no, my son. And I think they were trying to kind of walk the line of like keeping some sympathy there.
Yeah, exactly. And
Because it
the
seems like
big
you go
problem with
long
me.
stretches without that, and then every once in a while they'll be like, "Oh, look, he's a kid again." You're like, "Oh, he's a kid. Oh, okay."
Yeah, and it dabbles in a lot of like really boring cliches in this type of movie. So
Yeah, so much walking around the dark house doing nothing and being like, "Hello, is anybody there?"
also like no one would ever not wear work boots after stepping on that glass. Like I'm just saying, no one would be barefoot in that house again after that Garfield got bloodied up.
That was pretty brutal, and that's well, Casey. I'll get to you in a second, but that's like I think I didn't like it a lot either. But it does have some pretty batshit moments, which are
Yeah.
commendable, I think, in some ways. Casey, what do you think?
No.
Casey's gone.
Casey locked up.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't know why it's
Oh,
crashing on me. I'm sorry, guys.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
What'd you think?
I was not a fan of this movie. I thought it was rather bland throughout most of it. I appreciate the stuff in the third act, like Andrew was talking about, and that helped turn me around a little bit on it. But I don't know. I came into this not being a big Taylor Schilling fan, and this did not do anything to change that. To be perfectly honest, it's just that it seems it's just really dry throughout. And some of the stuff that they tried to do, and we'll get into it later, and we talked about this in email, some of the stuff they tried to do to show what was going on with the kid, I thought was comical, where some of it worked better than others. But the fact that they actually went dark and actually, like, kind of went for it, I do appreciate that, and I give them kudos for that at the end. So,
What do you have against Taylor Schilling?
No, I like her. I don't. People kind of hate on her. I don't know why. She's fine.
Really?
I'm just not a fan. I mean, we've watched all of it, Orange is the New Black at our house. We're big fans of it, but it has nothing to do with her. That's all about the secondary characters in there. That's really makes the show for us. So for us, it's not. We wouldn't even care if she wasn't on there
Oh,
anymore.
Taylor.
Oh,
I'm pretty in line with Casey. Other than the way out of bounds Taylor Schilling hate. I think that, like, to me, if you're gonna, and I find myself saying this more and more lately, but if you're gonna make one of these things, because, like, listen, it's got some unique moments, but it's your basic run of the mill kid possession slash. I mean, like, it actually kind of wants to be like a good son kind of a thing. You know what I mean? Like, you could almost. This is the part. Because I'm kind of dense, and I didn't immediately put together that this was a reincarnation thing. I thought we were kind of flashing back and seeing the killer's childhood at first.
Oh.
To me, I think you would have even made a better movie if you maybe just told concurrent storylines and showing his parents dealing with this troubled kid or whatever, and maybe just cook up a way to have an interesting finale around that. But I'm very slow, Andrew. Don't give me that look. But
no. You just pitched a better movie. I'm giving you that.
Well,
I was just thinking that. Yeah,
because
that
my
might be
problem
more
is
fun.
when you start doing this goofy supernatural shit, you kind of lose me. Like, I'm not saying you can't make a good movie like this, but we have seen so damn many of these. You got to really bring it if you're going to do this in 2019, I think. And this is, like, on that scale, this is so run of the mill. It's very like somebody read a bunch of like Good Son clones, and then somebody read a bunch of like Wandaverse things and just kind of mashed things up together. Like, there's legit 10 minutes of people walking around dark houses being like, "Are you there? Hello?" And then, like, some
To
of
be
it,
fair,
some of
he
it,
was there.
he was. Some of it doesn't even pay off, which is like my biggest pet peeve. But there's a lot of, I think, issues too with the whole, both doctors, their characters are so clumsy. Like, two appointments in, this like ostensibly respectable doctor starts talking about reincarnation and pitching it to this lady. Then she brings in doctor number 2, who literally is, you can almost see that he is just like a device of the writers to get more information out about the demon. And it's not even like we see research, right? He just kind of pops in a frame and is like, it's the demon from the Romanian plains and the blah blah, like whatever. And he's like, it's just so bad and so cliche. What I do think, and I agree with Joe on this point, they make some very bold choices at like several junctions of this movie. They show this kid committing straight up acts of violence, which you don't expect. It's pretty graphic. They do this thing where, so the idea is the kid is possessed and his spirit is fighting with the killer spirit for the body. And they do this weird thing that I do think rides the uncanny valley a little bit, but she'll like look at him and for a second, he's like a little kid with the face of this killer, and then it just kind of shadow flashes and then it's gone.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny, but I also thought there were moments where it's actually like it's like pretty bananas. And that's why, again, like in a boring movie, I appreciated these little moments where you're like I was literally like, what in the hell? Like, because it's out of nowhere. And the finale, which we'll get to maybe in a little bit, but like I think that it's kind of crazy how bland the thing overall is, but there's still these moments that you're like, how did that even make it in here? Like that's crazy.
Yeah, and I think it's what those moments I probably just liked a little more than you guys, and that's what kind of made this for me. And again, I'm not saying this. I thought this was great by any means, but I did think it had a little bit of those like what the fuck moments that separated it from some of the other movies we've seen like this, like and especially towards like the end, which I won't spoil yet, but we'll get to.
What was your favorite moment, Joe?
I mean, really, like the first one that kicked it off was when he bashes that kid over the head with a wrench, and then like later we get this scene, and it's not even like a spooky scene, but like he's with that second doctor that you're talking about, and they pretty much hypnotize him, and we're talking to the murderer that's inside the kid, and he just like hatches this plot that like, hey, I'm gonna go outside there, I'm gonna tell you my mother that you tried to stick your D in my M. And like, apparently, like
You just made it worse.
he like gathered pubes from the guy's bathroom, and was like, holy shit!
And he
like,
put him in his teeth, and he's like,
Yeah.
and then he smiles, and you're just like,
Oh, he
what
smiles,
the
you're like, "Whoa."
fuck?
Yeah, it's like this. Who I don't know who the writer is, but like this isn't like a hey, I'm gonna go outside and tell my mom that you touched me. Like this guy put thought
And
into
again,
this
it's like,
scenario.
it's the funny thing about this movie. This movie will go 10, 15 minutes with a total flat line for enjoyment, and then suddenly something like that will happen, and you'll be like, your eyes just get big, and you're like, what?
What is happening here?
Yeah.
I almost wonder if it like screams of somebody like a script doctor coming in and like
Somebody
and, like,
somebody
yeah,
did a
oh,
punch, a pube punch up.
Yeah.
You know what?
You punch
It's
out.
like a guy, he's known for like, he always puts pubes in his movie, and you can't talk him out of it.
It's his like what is it, flying like the doves?
Like,
in,
he also punched. Oddly enough,
John Woo.
it is John. Yeah, it's John Woo doves.
oddly
tag.
enough, he also punched up Midsummer.
Yeah. That's true.
Just that one
He's the
scene.
guy who wrote it.
Who do we? Oh man, this thing needs work. What are we gonna do, guys? I got this guy.
I
He's
got a
really
pube guy.
good.
Yeah.
He's weirdly into pubes, but he's really good. I think we should hire him.
He's got a real thing for pubes.
Oh, he's right.
just-
This
it
guy's
makes
writing
me-
the Grudge 2020 remake.
It
so
makes
you bet
me.
there's gonna be
Oh,
pubes
dude,
in that.
wait a minute. Somebody make a note. If that movie has pubes in it, I swear to God.
It's a thing. It's a thing. I mean,
I like-
also the later in the film we get Taylor Schilling or whatever the heck her name is. Like, there's a scene, and again, I don't want to spoil it, but like she's pretty much looking for the survivors of this guy, the murderer, and we kind of have this not confrontation, but she gets together with one of his victims that got away, and like that scene I thought was super tense. Like, I didn't see it coming, one, and two, like you can see it kind of clicking through her head what she like the decision she has to make, and like I thought that was like super effective.
I agree. Sorry.
My big question here is, so this movie's called The Prodigy. The definition of a prodigy is a person, especially a young one, endowed with exceptional qualities or abilities. They start out this movie talking about how Miles is gifted and, super smart and stuff like that, and he was developing early or anything like that. But they don't tie it anything to anything that's doing with the spirit of this guy that, he may or may not be in with, or it has no.
Well, I
Effect
took it
on the
as
story.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting, actually. That thought.
They do have that small moment where he is good with machines and he like makes that whole like spy camera thing.
So,
where
but
he's
do we?
spying on the
But
parents,
Casey brings up a good question. Is the kid a prodigy and also possessed, or is it just that he's so smart because he's an old dude reincarnated?
see
Yeah.
that's what I.
But
took
I
it
don't
as,
think
like,
that's how
he's got
reincarnate-
this guy in him. Like,
Not to quibble with this science medical doctor, but I don't think that's how reincarnation works, right? Like babies are just born with the memories of an old man.
Yeah.
I don't think reincarnation is real, Eric.
Oh.
Well,
Oh.
listen, I wasn't gonna say it, but
This week's Andrew hot take.
You know
Well,
what grinds my gears?
CC's not here to get mad at CC's not here to get mad at me, so I guess I can say it.
I'd be interested. Do you think CC believes in reincarnation?
If she does, then I apologize.
I'm gonna text while we're discussing and get to the bottom of this.
Great,
I'm gonna
great.
say yes.
I'm gonna witch's curse on me halfway through this episode. Thanks, Joe.
I'm gonna say either yes or a non-committal answer that leaves the door open. That's my vote.
Can we talk about how terrible the fake video game the child is playing in this game is?
So yeah, so one of the ways that we're shown that he's like getting violent is that he's playing like fake Call of Duty. I don't think we actually see it, but we hear like maybe the worst.
Oh, you see it. You see it. It's like really terrible.
Oh, do we?
Like it's just like a terrible, like it looks like a N64 game. Like that's how bad it looks.
With
And just
the-
like a floating guns and
with
stuff.
like the worst Foleyed video game sound effects ever. It's like pew 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 pew, and then you just hear guys like muffled yelling like, "Kill him! Shoot the guy! Kill him in his face!" And it's just like over. And it's like hilariously violent things the soldiers are yelling, and the parents are like, "Oh my god!" Like, dude, it's 2019. Okay, I literally played Mortal Kombat when I was a kid, ripping people's skulls out of their body, and I'm fine.
And look at us now.
Yeah,
Well, I
we're
don't know
doing
if I would
great.
go fine, Eric, but
Well, I'm not a serial killer. Okay.
I haven't hit a kid over the head with a wrench.
Also, like, if you look at that dude's murder cabin, he doesn't play video games. Like, guys, no, he doesn't got like a
Yeah.
TV in there with a game system.
And again,
Dude is
now that
sitting
we're
there-
actually sussing it out, I find that whole part like of how much intelligence or personality this guy. I mean, it just doesn't make sense because like
Could.
really,
I mean, he
like
definitely had like a.
YouTube
that's a
commentator.
thing,
He
right?
had like a lot of equipment.
This
in
is
that
actually
thing. Like,
re-
I could picture him with like a Genesis in the corner.
well,
or something.
because he was like I think he was like a ham radio guy or something.
But at the start of I mean, they show it looked like he was building contraptions and stuff in the beginning of the movie, and so when they start talking about how Miles is born special and he's gifted, has nothing to do with any kind of engineering or mechanics or anything like that, where he's building shit. It's like he talked early and he's good at math or something.
It just doesn't make a lot of sense, and I feel like this movie is actually, now that I'm really thinking about it, is kind of like erroneously equating reincarnation with possession. Like it's basically kind of treating the two concepts as the same thing, which is not. Like Andrew, you mentioned over email, it's kind of like child's play, or Joe, maybe you said that, but like yeah, like in the sense that child's play is just somebody's soul in another thing's body. Like that's kind of what it is, but which really
And
isn't.
it's interesting because like in child's play they go the route of voodoo, which is also like problematic and like it's like that they use it because it's the 80s and no one was thinking about that stuff then. But like this whole idea of like they're always kind of like co-opting like other religious ideas or something in order to like justify this, other than just being like it's a spooky ghost that takes over the kid. Like there you go. Like I don't even know anything more.
I mean, there's so much exposition from this doctor dude about what's happening that we don't need in
Who
any
is
way.
he, by the way?
He's
Who
a
is he? Like-
he's a reincarnation doctor, and he has a clicky thing in his office. So
Yeah.
he's pretty legit.
Was he a shrink? I thought he was like a shrink.
Yeah, he's some kind of shrink. I mean, the regression thing is the angle they went with talking about regression and going back and finding out past lives and everything. That's a real thing. I've known people who've gone through it, stuff like that, and I understand what they're going for. But then you start mixing in all the other stuff with people picking up memories and skills and smarts and all that stuff, and it gets a little silly. But it doesn't feel like the whole movie. It feels like they kind of patched a couple different ideas together. They didn't say, let's have a regression movie and former lives and make it spooky, but then we're going to
Well,
confuse it with the possession and everything else.
Ultimately, the confusion part, it's like I think this thing can't decide if it wants to be a very like modern, mature, like edgy take on child possession or reincarnation or like murderous children, or if it wants to be like kind of a Wandaverse cheesy ghost popcorn horror movie and just have its jump scares, because there are some really egregious, badly directed jump scares in this movie. It's just with just like scream noises, and you're just like, what are you doing? It's like it can't decide if it wants to be the serious thing or be like a thrill ride horror movie, and it doesn't really do either very well, I don't think.
I mean, I do think we're getting a little too hung up on, is it possession? Is it reincarnation? Like, I just kind of felt like they were doing their own thing. And like, I don't know if we really need to like nitpick it so much.
Are you
Yeah,
giving
but we
me?
have an
Are
hour to
you?
fill, Joe.
Are you giving me? Wait a second. Am I to understand that you're invoking the Jason defense? I just want to make sure this is.
No, no, absolutely not. I 100% agree. I just, I think at no do they even use the word possession at any point in this?
No, but what I'm saying is the rules that they're laying out. The kid's possessed, basically.
Yeah,
He's not.
yeah.
You know.
I mean, I get it. I get what you guys are saying. I don't know. Maybe I am Jason.
He's
in
literally getting taken over by the other dude and being like, "Hey, lady."
this.
I wish there happened. I wish there was more of that. Like all he does is like do like Hungarian folk songs. And, hey, I'm down. But like he just talks about like you sang this during your childhood, and you're like, what?
Well, let's
I'm
talk
like, "Oh."
about the finale. So something really crazy happens in the finale. You want to kind of walk us through, Joe? Or spoiler alert, by the way.
Sure. So we get this scene with the doctor with pubes littered all over his house.
Right. It's really an indictment of his cleaning skills.
Eventually, the mother does get the info that like this serial killer is trapped inside her son, and we kind of get this dump that it's getting to the point where if they don't do something about it, the serial killer is going to be in there forever, and they're going to lose their son. The mother then kind of decides that she needs to track down the one survivor from the serial killer and take her out, because her plan is that this guy is inside her son because he's there to kind of seek his revenge or finish the job that he didn't get to do before he was killed by the police.
Phrasing.
I like the live feed because we get to see Laura like crawling on the ground while she's like trying to hide. So we get this, and what I thought was like fairly tense moment where the mother goes to this person's house and pretty much pulls out a gun on her and threatens to kill her, or decides she's going to kill her but can't do it, at which point the kid is inside the house, ends up stabbing and killing her. Cut to outside where the mother is trying to find the kid, and what she's assuming is that the serial killer has left his body at this point because he's kind of done his thing. Turns out he is not. The mother pulls the gun on the kid and is about to shoot her. In comes random hunter and shoots the mother and kills her before he can do anything, thinking that she's trying to hurt this small kid.
Right, but even I mean the big thing to me though is that like her plans with the victim.
Yes, yeah. So I think that you may have missed. We kind of talked about that. Like the mother was planning on killing the victim to kind of lift the curse from her son.
Which is maybe the ultimate like I'm kind of shocked this movie went there moment.
Exactly. Yeah. And then we all kind of wrap things up with the son being put into this foster home and assuming is gonna do more spookies type stuff.
Now wasn't the foster home like with the same doctor? Like I swear, wasn't that the doctor who introduced her to reincarnation?
It looked
right?
like
it looked like her. I don't think it was supposed to be the same lady.
No, I think it was.
But
the
I'm
same.
not sure.
I don't know. I thought it was the same lady.
Yeah, because then wouldn't she be like, oh man, jig is up?
It's
like,
just
clearly this evil serial killer.
Honestly, it's just the kind of lazy dumb thing this movie would do. So I think that's what I'm going with.
That's fair.
So I mean, this scene where the mother's trying to kill the leftover victim, like you kind of get that struggle of can she do it? Can she do it? Like I thought that scene was really interesting. It maybe didn't fit in this movie so much.
It's pretty out of nowhere, yeah.
But I thought it was really well done.
That was definitely it was the moment where I was like, huh, you did it, man. All right, good for you.
Yeah. I mean, that's the part of the movie that I appreciated too, because like Joe just said, you don't expect him to go there. And then all of a sudden it's just, for me, what throws it off is the jump. There is a scene in there that sets up, puts the idea in her mind, in the mom's mind, that she needs to kill this other lady off because the psychologist guy's telling her about how these people come back and inhabit a body to finish something that they left unfinished or something like that. And she finds a secret stash of this survivor lady's book and maps and crap like that the kid's been making and hiding in there. So she knows that's going there. But there usually you have some kind of moment in these movies where like the mom has to at least turn over the idea of, oh, how can I fix this? Can I talk to this lady? Can I introduce him? Can I do this? Can I do this? She goes straight to, I got to murder this lady.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go buy a gun at the pawn shop, and here we go. There's no debate whatsoever.
I almost would have like I almost thought for a minute the movie was gonna end with her literally shooting the survivor, and then the kid as the serial killer just laughing or something, and like then you find out like a really like I mean like I feel like that would have been like a pull the rug outside like twist ending, so like maybe that would have been a bit disappointing, but I really thought it was gonna go there. And like when the kid finally does off this victim and like the survivor, it's like so brutal. Like he just
super brutal.
Oh, it's like I was just like, oh, my stomach.
I mean, he murders the crap out of his dad too.
Mm.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, his dad's still alive.
But
He's
Yeah.
still
well,
kicking.
okay, yeah, but that
Which
was
I thought was like a weird thing to do. Like what? Like where are we going from here? Like I don't think they were setting this up for a sequel. Like, I think it was just kind of like this. You know, this is how it ends. But we got
Joe.
here.
You want to read
CC.
CC's reply?
CC says, in varying degrees, y'all are wondering, or a listener. Oh, now I gotta tell her that Andrew thinks she's dumb.
No, do not do that. Do not do that.
Sorry, I got to. I have to.
I'm not saying that. I was trying to do a punchline for a joke. Didn't mean to offend.
Anything
I'm
else,
sorry.
or do we want? Are we gonna roll on here?
Where the hell were we?
I don't remember.
So yeah, I mean, I again, like that's kind of what I liked about this was the fact that they really did go like super brutal with some of these murders. And I don't know. I mean, the ending I thought was a little cheap, like the random hunter killing her out of nowhere. Like it I don't know. Like it felt like it wrapped things up a little too quickly for me. Like like Andrew said, like I actually thought she was going to shoot the victim, which I thought would have been super interesting, or shot the kid, which obviously would have been super brutal also. But you know, they kind of did what they did.
I also didn't like though either because once this hunter shows up and everything, it's the hunter's out of nowhere, but it's an effective ending. They went someplace I didn't expect. But you also expect the ending the movie to end there. But we get an extra 2 minutes of watching Miles go back home and go into the foster family and admiring the mom's hand, and then just to get the flash of himself in the mirror at the end, which felt super tacked on. It was like, oh god, why isn't this over yet?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're good here.
All right. The Prodigy. The Prodigy. Would you recommend it, Joe?
I mean, it's on DVD now. I think it's worth a watch if you got the time.
Andrew.
I mean, if you just watch, like, if you just skip like an hour and just assume evil kid stuff happened, and then just like pop in for the last 30 minutes, you have a good time.
Just poop in for the end of it. I think that's the way to go. Casey.
I'd say poop on out of here.
Yeah, just
skip it all together.
I'll say this much: if this was earlier in the year and I hadn't seen a lot of terrible stuff yet, I would put this early on my worst of list. But we've seen some truly dog shit movies this year so far, so I'm not gonna do it.
I'm afraid I wouldn't let that happen, Eric. I'm sorry.
Well, it's okay.
Speaking of that, because I know your distaste for the movie, the same writer also wrote Pet Sematary.
Huh. Was there pubes in Pet Sematary? I haven't seen it yet.
That's a good question.
I just watched that finally Saturday, and I don't remember pubes.
It is very badly written, so I think that squares.
Maybe that's his thing.
Yeah.
Oh, poor man.
Or I don't know. That was a big budget. Maybe King nixed the pubes. It's like, guys, this is
Joey King was involved in Pet Sematary?
Yes. Oh, that was the most satisfying, like, comeback joke I've ever heard, Joe. Thank you.
Hashtag Year of the King.
All right, guys. Let's take a quick break and do some fan mail.
Fancy a game? Nightmare, the game hosted by a video.
I am the gatekeeper!
To win, you must stop it.
Roll the dice!
The video board game Nightmare. The gatekeeper talks to you.
Whose turn is it next?
And you must answer him.
Answer me! Yes, my gatekeeper. Go for it!
Nightmare, a race against time for 3 to 6 very game players.
Let's party!
This is Ashley C. Williams from the Human Centipede, and you're listening to Bloody Good Horror Podcast.
Send your emails to info@bloodygoodhorror.com or hit us up on Twitter at BGHorror with the hashtag AskBGH. And don't forget to pick up back episodes of the show at podcast.bloodygoodhorror.com.
And we are back.
I do not remember this Nightmare board game.
Oh, it's world famous, Joe. Lots of people.
It's like a VHS tape you had to play with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There were a whole bunch of volumes too. I think there's like 4 different volumes.
I'm sure a hot
Interesting.
collector's item on eBay these days.
Huh.
All right.
Interesting.
We got a dispatch from Andy from the site. He says, wanted to let people know that right now Luke is reviewing stuff from the Fantasia Fest in Montreal. He just did The Art of Self-Defense with Jesse Eisenberg. Been hearing stuff about that.
Ooh.
And the latest In Extremis, that's our resident lawyer, Joe, who writes about horror movies from a legal perspective.
I like it.
He tackles toy liability in the original Child's Play, which I really like. And Colin takes a look behind the scenes of the original Pet Sematary. And also, of course, we have reviews of The Perfection and Midsummer.
Obviously.
BloodyGoodHorror.com. Check it out.
Yeah.
One email this week. This is from Rory. Rory is a longtime listener and writer into the show. He said he kind of fell off listening for a while, but he's catching back up. And he said,
What happened? What happened?
don't know.
Why exactly?
I can't speak for him.
Was it something we did?
Probably. He says, maybe Schnars is too used to have also a really good spelling of Schnars here. Schnarrs, which I really like. Maybe Schnars is too used to having people cook for him in the ivory tower he lived in, but barbecuing is very much a thing in New York. Many parks and beaches have grills built into them so you don't have to bring your own. As for Captive State, I thought it was interesting, but felt very much like The Great Escape if it only focused on digging the tunnel and didn't spend any time with the characters. That is from Rory.
I do not remember what Captive State was even about at this point. It was
John
the John Goodman
Goodman,
thing, right?
aliens, creepy aliens, that kind of thing. info@bloodygoodhorror.com is the email. What we got on Twitter, Joe?
I think Rory is mistakenly thinking that John would ever set foot into a public park with the common folk, like picnicking and things like that. Like, I just don't see John doing that. We use 2 hashtags over on the Twitters. First one being hashtag BGH Classics. That's if you're listening to an old episode, something tickles your fancy, you think it's funny or just weird. You can send that in. We've actually got 2 weeks worth, which don't worry, Eric, that's not that many because we didn't do them last week. First one from Flora.
I was sleepy.
Yeah, Flora Duhan, our good friend. This is from episode 279, I Frankenstein. This is an Eric quote. He says, "Oh yeah, those are Jesus gargoyles. Those are gargoyles created by Jesus."
It's easy. You can tell.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the little halos. Next up, from our good friend Mi Corazon Mi Amor, that's Monica. Why don't you ravage me, Schnars? And if you had to guess, that would be Eric talking to John on episode 397.
You didn't.
Phantasm Ravager.
You didn't have to guess.
Yeah. I don't remember that. Did we do that for the show?
Because it's like
yes,
it's like
we did.
Phantasm Ravager, and I just thought that was I thought that was funny.
Must have not been on that one. Next
It
one
is very bad.
from our good friend Monica, also from another episode I was not on. I'm sensing a theme she likes here. Can you guys please stop you saying jacked up? That was Eric. And then Mark replies with, "Do you prefer tugged up?" Episode 350. Episode 350, Crimson Peak.
These are true
and then last but
BGH.
not
These are
least
true
from
BGH
our good-
classics in the sense that they're conversations you will not hear on the modern day show.
Yeah, exactly. Although not that
Well, maybe
long ago,
not.
350.
We did just spend 20 minutes talking about pubes.
No, at least. And then last but not least, from my good friend Skizbot, this is John says, "It's darkly whimsical." And then Eric replies, "You've just described Joe's sexual style."
Yeah.
Not far off. Episode 298, that was Snowpiercer, which I believe was one of our top films of that year.
Remember that
So there
time?
you go.
Remember that time I had to slide whistle you, Joe, because you gave out the full name of the girl you lost your virginity to?
I didn't lose my virginity. She was the first woman to take me in her mouth.
Oh.
Oh, yeah, that's so much better.
mouth-
Let's keep bringing this up.
Mouth virginity.
If we're keeping track at home, I lost my virginity to a cutter named Jessica in Philadelphia, who I never saw again after that night.
A what?
Someone who cuts themselves.
Oh my god.
Oh, I thought
Not-
we were talking about a lumberjack or something. Like I was
Oh,
kind of
no.
Joe, too far, Joe. I don't want to.
Yeah.
Do you want to say
Agreed.
what Facebook group she's in also, so people can track her down?
Oh no, this was AOL. This was long before. We also we use the hashtag AskBGH. That's if you're listening and something tickles your fancy. First one from Metal Prof, our good friend Ken. My local community theater is putting on Toxic Avenger the musical this October. Should I go? ? And oddly enough, if you hop over to bloodygoodhorror.com and do some searching, you will find a review that I wrote from probably about 10 years ago of Toxic Avenger the musical, which I really enjoyed it. I don't know if it's the same thing that they're still doing, but it was fun enough. And if you're a fan of Toxic Avenger, I would recommend it. So, hey, check it out if you can.
Yeah.
I remember going and we got comp tickets because we were writing it for the site. And this was like when I first started writing. I was very excited that I was getting comped to anything. So I went up to the box office and the manager was there and they couldn't find they knew I was supposed to be there, but they couldn't find where I was supposed to be sitting. And I heard him whisper to the attendant there, like, it doesn't matter where the tickets are. Just give him whatever we have. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Oh, I see.
Next up from John's personal. Yeah, go ahead.
Joe's got a notepad. I was like, okay, this will reflect in the review.
From John's personal trainer, that's Zombie Wasabi. What was the name of that website you guys used to read off of that listed all the unchristian scenes in new movies? Upper male nudity was mentioned a lot. I want that segment back so bad.
Funny she should ask. It's movieguide.org. And
Yep.
her tweet sent Andrew down an internet rabbit hole, and so he's going to do that for us now. He's going to read us the for the Prodigy.
Ooh.
Okay, so let's talk about this. So we've got and this is the Prodigy. So, very strong occult, false worldview where reincarnation is the center of belief, no mention of God, the Bible, prayer, or Christian, despite the movie's spiritual elements.
That's true.
There is no religion or center of worship in murderer's life except evil, and murderer can do whatever he wants in life with no consequences, and mother tries to save her son, but fails. There's like a little spoiler thing, and it says "but fails," but I don't know why you'd put it there unless it was the failure part of it.
Butt fails. It's a website about butt fails, just people who get hit in the butt.
Butt fails.
Yeah, exactly. And then we get shot of a naked man's backside and bottom, one shot of a naked man's entire front side. The audience does not see the man's genitals because he is blocked by a policeman, but everything else is shown around his genitals.
No, I was gonna say I don't remember seeing peen in this thing.
So then you got miscellaneous immorality includes demon, dark angels. It doesn't. Demonic beings, spirits, lying, mass murder, and spoiler, villain wins in the end.
Oh.
There's a lot of horrible things happening from the Christian perspective.
Ouch.
Well, you said it, brother.
That's tough. All right, moving on with the tweets. This is a good one from our friend Co Flanagan. Ever since I was a little boy, I wanted to be a corrections officer, and I'm mad that dream come true. What do y'all want to be when y'all was kids?
Well, such a soliloquy as is wont from our followers. I wanted to be a paleontologist or an archaeologist because I just wanted to be Alan Grant or Indiana Jones. So
Interesting.
I succeeded at being neither.
Huh. Anybody else?
I wanted to be a spy.
Eric? Did Eric leave?
Yes.
Yeah, Eric left.
Yes.
This isn't even a joke, but you're gonna think of this. I honestly wanted to be a bartender. I wanted to own my own bar since I was a young lad.
Was it a Cheers influence?
It may have been, but also my grandfather on my
Cocktail.
mom's side owned his own bar. So I don't know. Maybe someday. We'll see. Eric, what did you want to be when you were a kid?
I actually used to go around telling people that Mark was going to be really rich and I wanted to live on his couch. Like, I didn't want to do anything. That was my goal. Like, literally, I was a lazy kid, Joe.
Hey, Mark's
but
pretty young. That could still happen.
In fact,
Yeah,
it was
true.
a thing I forgot that I used to do until I ran into one of my old teachers. This was after I'd graduated. I was I had a decent career, and she asked like, "Oh, you living on your brother's couch?" And I was like, "Oh God, I did used to say it all the time, right?" And like, it's a weird moment. I think about that moment a lot.
Mark lives in Florida. Nobody from Florida becomes famous.
Other than the alligators who are on meth.
It's true. A few more to bang through here. Next up from @3guys_that_horror. Have you guys seen the Easter short the director of The Prodigy did in Holidays, Nightmare Fuel? I think we did that for the show, didn't we?
We did Holidays, yeah.
Yeah.
It's creepy.
Next up from our good friend Dianca. I'm saying that wrong. I'm visiting Chicago in a few days. What should I do? That's a big answer, Dianca. But actually, if you want to shoot me, joe@bloodygoodhorror.com an email, I will reply with some suggestions. If you're into, just let me know what you're looking for. You know, brewery, food, stuff, the sites.
You could postpone your trip 2 months and come to the meetup.
It's true. There's always that. Next up from @Ben_Jacobson DBQ. Why isn't the theater in town that has the nice reclining seats playing Midsummer? Like, if I want to see it, I have to sit upright with my feet on the ground like some sort of peasant. Please advise. I don't know. I would skip and wait till home. I refuse to sit in chairs.
Yeah, Midsummer is a good one for the theater. That's what he's talking about.
Yes. Yeah.
Strong occult worldview. They're not going to bring it to theaters.
But 2.5 hours in non-reclining seats, I don't think I could do that. All right, 2 more here, and we'll bang through these. From our good friend Nyla Davinger. I manage a brewery tap room. I don't know why she's never mentioned this before. No food, just beer. Found out today that we are installing baby changing tables in the bathrooms. I have a feeling about kids at breweries in general. Why would you take your kids to a brewery? What about a bar? Or I'm sorry, would you take your kids to a brewery? What about bar? What are your thoughts?
I think brew pub is acceptable. I'm not sure I'd bring a kid to just a straight up brewery, but if you're just going having lunch and having some beers, like whatever.
Yeah, I disagree. I have taken both of my kids to a brewery. I mean, most of them are like super kid friendly now. A lot of them have games. Like, you know, I don't think it's that crazy. I do subscribe to the theory that like you go first thing when the place opens where it's not super busy. I wouldn't take my kids if it was like packed, but you know, on like a Sunday morning around like 11 or noon, like I'm all for it.
I gotta say, from being from Indiana, when we went to New York City and went to John's local watering hole there, I was surprised at the number of kids that were there.
Yeah, well, everything's a restaurant too.
Yeah. See, I don't know. See, when I moved to Chicago, I was surprised at how like acceptable kids at bars and like different places were. A lot more than New York. So. I'm interested in what your take on this is, Lori. So let us know. Next up and last, our friend Skizbot. I once punched a wasp out of the air. What's the manliest thing you've ever done?
There are a few things more satisfying than one slapping a bug out of the air and killing it. Like it's really
true.
Good. I changed a tire by myself once. That may not sound that impressive, but it was pretty hard for me.
Jesus.
I did.
I built a shed.
Holy
I did my own
fuck,
taxes.
Joe. That's not manly.
I find
I did my
bugs
own
inside
taxes.
and let them outside.
That's adorable.
Yeah. All right. So there's the things. That's it. That's it for the tweets.
I'm trying to think if I have anything more manly than that, but probably not. I used to work summers at there's a big motorcycle rally up where we're from every year. It's like one of the biggest in the country, and my father would work because he was a big motorcycle guy, and I would work pulling tires for the week. So like it's like a giant tire changing station, and like hundreds of bikers would just come in a line and drop their bikes off, and then my job is to go back into like a hot trailer and lug these like huge tires and then bring them to the person who was changing them. It was my hands would be dirty by the end of the day, Joe. It was, but I would get like,
sounds awful.
I'd do it as a teenager. I'd get like $500 for working the week, and I was like rich basically for the summer.
Yeah, it's not a bad way to spend a week.
I bought my big ass tube TV with that money. 32 inches or something of tube TV.
Tubes, lots of tubes.
All right, guys, that's gonna do it for the Prodigy. We're not sure what we're doing next week, but it's another non-theater week for us. So we've got a list of streaming things that have just been released that we're gonna check out. If you follow the BG Horror Twitter, you can get that info as soon as it's released. Also, don't sleep on BGH Meetup 2019. What are we calling it, Joe? Spooktoberfest?
Spooktoberfest, yeah. And there should be, probably by the time this show goes up, we'll have a post on the site too with details for everybody.
Very nice. Yeah, so check that out. hang out on Slack with us during the week, you can get that through patreon.com/bloodygoodhorror. That's going to do it, guys. Hope you enjoyed the show. We'll talk to you next week.
You go first, Andrew.
Oh, bye.
All right, bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.